July 31st, 1978. The first time I visited that place, it was the summer of my 18th year. That makes it about 20 years ago. As I got off the helicopter, I remembered the sight of the swirling wind the helicopter blades whipped into the air. When viewed from above, the old mansion seemed quite normal. But when seen from the ground, there was something foreboding and unapproachable about it. Birkin, my junior by 2 years, seemed as usual to be only concerned with the document he was holding. We were assigned to the mansion 2 days earlier, on the day that the executive training center we had belonged to was closed. It all seemed like it was planned, too much of a coincidence. But probably the only person who knew the real truth was Spencer. Spencer was one of the main guys in charge of America's T-virus research at the Arklay Research Facility. As soon as we got off the helicopter, the head of the facility was standing in front of the elevator, ready to greet us. I can't even remember the guy's name. Who really cares about formalities and figureheads like him? From that day on, the Arklay Research Center was ours. As chief researchers, we were put completely in charge of all aspects of the facility. Of course, that is just how Spencer had planned it all out. He chose us. We ignored the facility head and got on the elevator. I had already memorized the building layout the day before, and Birkin, although he has no bad intentions, never really pays much attention to other people. Most people probably get pretty irked from the first 5 seconds that they meet us. However, the facility head had no reaction at all. But then, I was a young buck, completely full of himself, so I didn't really pay the facility head any mind. But in the end, I was really only Spencer's puppet, and the facility head, whose boss was Spencer, at least actually knew what Spencer was up to and what he was thinking. The whole time we were riding in the elevator, Birkin never took his eye off the documents he was holding. The document that Birkin was scrutinizing so closely was a report about a new virus that has shown up in Africa. It was called Ebola. At this moment, there were many people all throughout the world who were studying the Ebola virus. However, I think there were 2 major reasons why they were studying it: to help people and to kill them. As you probably know, the death rate of someone affected by Ebola is 90%. In 10 days, it quickly destroys a person's organs. Even now, there are no known ways to prevent it or cure it. It could, quite possibly, destroy a large part of the human race. Of course, even before this, due to the Biological Weapons Prohibition Pact, it was illegal for us to study the virus as a weapon. However, even if we weren't the ones to research it, there was no proof that someone else wouldn't be doing that same thing, and so it was considered legal for us to research it, just in case. There is a thin line in international law between what is acceptable and what is prohibited, and so it became necessary to research how the virus study information would be used as a method of prevention, not as a weapon. There really is no difference in the way in which you research a virus as a cure from how you research it as a weapon. But since the 2 are very similar, it is possible to pretend you are researching a cure, while in fact, be researching the virus as a weapon. Even though at that time, for whatever reason, Birkin may have been looking at the Ebola report, he wasn't really researching the Ebola virus. The Ebola virus had too many weak spots. First of all, the virus could only survive for a few days, if not inside a human body. It would soon die if under sunlight, ultraviolet light, for too long. Secondly, since it kills the host too quickly, there isn't enough time to transfer, infect other hosts. Finally, the virus is only transferable through direct touch, and so it can be easily prevented. Try to imagine the following. If a person who was heavily infected, the disease had spread all throughout their body, could actually stand and walk around, and without knowing it, was in direct contact with other people of their own accord. What if the RNA of the Ebola virus could actually alter a person's genetic code? And if, through that, a person was able to carry the virus without dying? What if this person had the resilience of a monster? That is, wouldn't this person be a living dead whose body carried the virus? Something that could infect others, sort of like a living biological weapon. I guess we are lucky that the Ebola virus doesn't have the potential to do such things. I wonder if we will be successful in holding out to such a virus without it getting into the wrong person's hands. The Arklay lab, headed up by Spencer, was built for that purpose, it seemed. To create a disease capable of the characteristics I listed before. Officially, it was just a pharmaceutical company researching cures to viruses. But the truth is, it was really a factory for manufacturing biological weapons. The origin of the company was to create new starter viruses by recombining genes. In order to produce biological weapons out of these new starter viruses, they began studying virus mutations in order to strengthen the basic viruses they had created. This was known as the T-virus experiment. RNA-based starter viruses can easily be mutated. Through those mutations, it is possible to strengthen their traits. The reason Birkin was so interested in the Ebola virus was that he was thinking of recombining the Ebola genes into a starter virus to strengthen its attributes. By the time we had arrived at the research center, there was already a sample of the Ebola virus waiting for us. We changed elevators several times, finally reached the upper level of the complex. When we arrived, even Birkin looked up. It was the first time we had met her. We hadn't heard a single word about her before. She was a secret of the utmost confidentiality at the research center, and they didn't let any information about her out of the compound. According to the records, she was at the research center from the very moment it was first built. She was 25. But we didn't know her name, nor why she was here. She was to be used as the experimental subject host for the T-virus. The day we began the experiment was November 10th, 1967. We did T-virus experiments on her for all of 11 years. Birkin mumbled something. Maybe they were words cursing our situation. Maybe they were words of praise. In any case, we had come to the point of no return now. We had two choices: to succeed in our research, or to lay here rotting like she was. Of course, that meant we really only had one choice. She was bound to a pipe bed, and something about her made me think, had this been a part of Spencer's plan all along?